I would get off the phone with her and email Dr. Ahab asking him if he could call me. I needed some professional advice, and he was the only person that came to mind. I know my friend would be there for me like any other time that I'm stressed and needed someone to talk to. When he replied back that he would call me, I was happy. I get to dump all of this unhealthy weight off my shoulders and onto his. Chapter 69. Dr. Ahab would call, and I was glad to hear his voice. Here it is. I was just over Jezebel. I couldn't take it any longer. I asked if he thinks I'm an observant person, and he would answer yes. I started to tell him about what I was experiencing at Jezebel's house. I never told him her name, though. He just knows her as a lawyer. I told him about the time the key and credit card were outside and how I was thinking it was the couple that was staying there doing it, only for them to leave and the same weird shit was still happening. I told him about her having me write out a check for her uncle's mentally challenged children and how she left and came back asking where her uncle's checkbook was while the phone was being recorded. I told Dr. Ahab how her uncle was sick and she was sick of the worst and asked me if her uncle died, if I would still stay there with her. I told him about the time she went behind my back and asked my son's father if he would work for her if I ever stopped working for her. Let me see. I told him the story of her telling me why Shaytina is no longer in her uncle's will and how she later told me how Shaytina said to her, "Well, why don't you fuck him then?" I explained to Dr. Ahab how she seemed to already know of me because she knew of the Monopoly money story, which I didn't tell him that part. I just told him that she said, "Why does that story sound familiar?" I told him how she constantly was wanting to know about all these characters in this book and my ex-boyfriend. I told him how I was trying to protect everyone's identity in the book. I had to keep telling her that if these people wanted to know who they were, they would come forward. She wouldn't respect my boundaries. It's like she was fascinated with my life. I even told Dr. Ahab how she was asking about him. I didn't tell him how she wanted to see a picture of him, and I showed her after she kept asking. I would tell him about how 1 minute something would be there and the next it wouldn't, and how I was feeling like I was going crazy being over there. After I poured out all that was bothering me, he told me not to go back to her house.